And yes, I will be covering what a clipping mask is, what alpha lock is, what mask is. So in case you're confused about that, that's also going to be in this video. Okay. So this is your brush tool. When you click on this, all the brushes that you have from Procreate are here. So there's water, organic, industrial, luminance, vintage. Okay, so all of them. If you buy brushes, then when you install them, they will come here. So this is all the brushes that I have bought and installed on the computer. The major ones are George Vaughn's, who has like 20,000 brushes, so these are all the brushes that you have, and this is the library of the brush. You can't search for brushes, you have to just know and familiarize yourself. But what I find my system is that I put emojis next to the names, so I know who, like this is Brenda Backer. I really like her as an artist, and I do a lot of her Skillshare courses. So I've put a little firefly, or maybe she put a firefly, I don't know, or I put a firefly in front of her name, so I know and recognize when I'm scrolling that it's Brenda's brushes. So yeah, so basically that is your brushes, right? When you go into a brush, you can just choose this and use it. And then of course there are many things you can do, but this is just familiarizing brushes with you. This is the brush tool, this is the blend tool. Now whatever brush you choose here, like if I choose like a black letter, this is some brush here. If I want to erase with the same brush, I just have to press if I want to blend with this brush, I press this down and I have the same brush to blend this. This comes in handy when, for example, I like this for gouache and stuff. So if I've drawn something and I want to blend this, right, I press down and it smudges with current brush. So it's smudging with the same brush. Okay, this is a similar thing for the eraser. If I press it down, the same style of brush will be erasing, which is pretty cool. Most brushes can be drawn with, blended with, and erased with. So most makers of brushes, and including the Procreate brushes, come with a function that they can brush, blend, and erase with the same brush. So that's pretty handy. Okay, so that's what these functions are. Okay, so I'll tell you how I use this. Like I made this, right? And I want to erase with some texture. So I've clicked on some texture and I'm erasing with the texture. I mean, this is not an ideally pretty design, but I'm just showing you that if I want to erase with this, that's what I can do. Layers. Okay, you can see the two layers here. This shows you your background, so you can choose your background color if you want a blue color or a green or a white. Okay, then it gives you whatever layers you have. So as like layer 1, layer 2, layer 3. So you can erase all the layers if you want, but you can't erase this layer because it's by default. Adding a layer, you do the plus sign, and if you want to duplicate a layer, you hit duplicate. You right click and it'll give you an option of do you want to delete it, duplicate it, or lock it. So that is, and highlighting is right slide, and I want to delete these. Okay, so in layers there are a lot of cool things you can do. So for example, okay, I've drawn this. Okay, oh, this is terrible. Can I draw something nicer? In this there'll be a sign here that shows you N. Okay, so that is N for normal. Okay, when you click on the N, it gives you a whole list of things, and this is like super fun because it gives you, do you want to multiply, do you want to darken it, do you want to color burn, linear burn, darken, normal, light, color screen, add, hard light, soft light, vivid light, and all that. Okay, so now what I'll tell you, it's a lot, but let me tell you the context which I use it. Okay, So for example, if I'm doing a sketch, so if I want to draw a tree, right, simple tree, right, now I want to color in the tree, right, so normal mode would be this. Okay, now if I put it on M, multiply, it looks normal, it doesn't look like anything is different. I've made a layer and I've removed this layer and I've dragged this layer on top of this layer. Okay, so now M is on top and with my drawing, and layer, this is empty. Now if I want to, for example, add some colors, see, I can see the black line. Okay, now if I had not put it on M, on N, and I put this underneath, this would have gone underneath the painting. This comes in handy when you're doing sketches and you want to paint inside your sketch, but you don't want the sketch to disappear. A lot of times I do that, and this is again a tip that I got from Calvin and other artists through their tutorials. Alright, so basically that's the fun thing that you can do. You have lots of things. I would suggest play around with this when you've done an illustration and you want to do layers. You play around with these settings. It's super fun to do. This is the color. This is where you get color palettes. This is where you can choose your colors, right? There's the disc version if you like discs, right? And there's a classic version, which is like, so when you want black, you go to the left corner, sorry. But generally you shouldn't paint with pure black because you can't do anything with it. And then if you want white, you go straight to the left corner top. So that's pure white is right there at that end, and pure black is right there at this end. Okay, so that's a tip in case you didn't know this. All right, so that's there. Now what happens is, like for example, you see this spring illustration. This was a palette made by Tati, which I did a tutorial, and that was what she gave. But for example, I've made a palette dedicated to Wes Anderson because I love him. So I've created palettes that are from his movie if I want to take a tone. So I created that. So there are many palettes, like for example, when you buy a brush, some artists give you a palette. So for example, this is Lisa's palettes from her Aquarelle brush set. Sometimes they give you brushes with palettes if you want to draw in some tones. Like if you see here, for the Glacier palette, she has like so many different shades of blue because that's how she would treat a glacier setting. So this comes in handy. When you download a new palette, the palette shows up in the end, and when you make a palette yourself, it comes in the top. These are the default palettes that would otherwise open up in your Procreate when you open it for the first time. Compact and is the list. Cards is very interesting because it has the color of, it has the name of the color. This is for differently able people who like colorblind people who may not be able to see the colors. This is value. So if you want to choose a color according to value, this is the harmony. So for example, it tells you which colors are in harmony. And classic. I generally paint with this section. This is for the size of the brush. So when you go up, then the brush gets big. When you go down, the brush gets small. Sometimes if you want to be fancy and make I don't know if you saw that, but if you want to like play around, you make the size big, and while you're drawing, you make this size small, so you get interesting shapes. I think that comes in handy. I've actually never done this for drawings, but okay. And then this is a color picker. So for example, if you're like, oh, I want white, I want a quick way to get white, then you color pick like where the white is or whatever color you want. This is opacity. So for example, I just did this with full opacity. But if I lower this, then the opacity is less. So this is cool ways that you can do this. This is for undo. Also double tap is undo. There are cool things like this is the one that I was talking about, the spring one. So there are cool things you can do, like you can do this kind of thing. If you see my layers here, I have a top layer which is marked divide. So this is what Tati taught in her class. She's really good. You should check her videos out. And this is different elements. So like I made the bird and then I merged the layers. So this has many layers, right? And this has, if you remove this, this is one layer. If you remove this, this is one layer. So now, just for safety, in case I don't have a backup, I'll just duplicate this. So I click on this and I duplicate this, right? So now, for example, if I want to this is a good thing to say. Suppose you buy some papers of somebody or someone gives you papers free, you'll have this locked section here with a bunch of stuff. So don't worry about that. You have to do your drawing here. Most people say draw here. So the reason I was able to get this lovely texture was because I had a canvas paper texture over mine. Okay, so as you can see, there's a texture, right? Okay, so now, for example, I've got this horse and I want this whole thing to be in one layer. I click on this and this gives me options to rename it, select it, copy it, fill layer. So remember we were talking about fill layer. So if I click on fill layer, it will choose the color here and fill the horse with white. So let's try it. It filled the whole page. No. Okay, thank God for undo, right? So now this is there and this is there. So if I want to merge it, it will, I'll have to merge down, right? So I'll say merge down, merge down. Okay, so that made it one poster. Okay, now for example, if I want to, of course I can rename, select, copy, fill layer, which I told you. Clear means the horse will go. Alpha lock. This is a nice one. If I want to make changes on the horse, like if I want to shade the horse, there's a thing called alpha lock, which allows everything around to be locked except for the horse. So for example, if I want to draw on the horse and only the horse, then because I've alpha locked it, only that gets drawn on, whatever the horse is on. Okay. Clipping mask. Mask is if I want to put something over the horse. Okay, so basically whatever I want to put, like if I want to put a overlay, if I want to put something, then it creates a mask for it. If this is there and I just want even unicorns and I don't want this end, right? If I click on clipping, it gets clipped onto the illustration below it. Okay, obviously I don't want that, so I'll put that back here. But how that comes in handy is like, for example, if I've clipped this empty layer, it's a little bit like alpha lock, where it only allows me to draw on what I already know. So for example, this is not, sorry, I did it on the wrong layer. This is clipped and this is the indicator that it's clipped. There's a arrow going down, right? Now if I draw, even if I draw here, it won't come. Okay, if I draw here, it will be clipped here. But if you see here, if I don't clip this, it'll come like crazy. But if I clip this, then it automatically clips onto the horse. Okay. Now, interestingly, in mask, it's similar, but mask, what it does is you have to do things in black and white. So if I want to delete the tail, right, I create a mask and in black I delete the tail. But I'm like, oh no, I want the tail back. I go to white and I delete the tail. I bring the tail back. So mask is basically non-destructive editing that you can do on your illustration. So I don't want to change anything here. What happens with alpha lock is that alpha lock, there's no way for me to make any changes other than undo. Clipping mask keeps your changes on another mask, so you can use that also. What a layer mask does is it creates a non-destructive way for you to make changes. So clipping mask and mask are great ways. Only thing with layer mask is you're limited to black and white, whereas with clipping mask you can do whatever. You can add texture, you can add patterns, you can add different things. My choice of this kind of thing is clipping mask, of course, but when it comes to texture and shading, I prefer Alpha Lock because I prefer Alpha Lock because I can go into more precise, and plus by now I'm a little more confident about my style. But in the beginning I would do clipping mask just to be safe. So basically that is there. Invert means you make things backwards. Then reference, you remember that window that popped? If you click on this and then you click on reference, which is here, the horse will come here. Okay, so that becomes your reference. Okay, or it won't change, like it'll be fixed. Let's delete this. Then finally reference, merge down, you merge this down, merge down, you merge this down, and combine down is also similar. So basically that. Combine down makes it into a group. If I want to make something in a layer, like this and this are together, okay, but I want to put them together and just forget about that, I create a group. So this becomes a group. So if I remove this, then this group is always going to be together. I can flatten this group and make it one layer. So that gives you an idea about Procreate, the interface, what it has, what is the stack, what is select, what is import, how to make a canvas. I hope this helps you get an overview of Procreate. And like I said earlier in the video, and if you haven't seen it, please click on it and see it. The key is just to draw. No matter how good or bad your drawings are, just draw. I promise you'll get better. Thank you for joining me in this digital drawing masterclass, DDMC as I keep calling it. I will get into more details in the next video. Let me know if you have any questions. I will love to answer them and love to do videos if you want something specific done. Thank you again, and I hope you enjoyed it. It was a long video, but it is something that will help you and give you an overview of this Procreate app, which I obviously love a lot. Okay, thanks again for joining me. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.